This is Protocol One. I'm James Nielsen Watt. If you are successful but not fulfilled, you're running industrial age software on space age hardware. It's time for an upgrade. Don't settle.
Hey, Josh, excited to have you on the show. We met at scaling.com event. And as I was explaining pre-show, like this is for me to get to know people that I want to talk to. And we were in that little circle and I was listening to what you did. And we're kind of from a similar background with sales and whatnot. And I was like, I had to get this dude on the show. I got to talk to him. So I'd love it if you could give the audience some backstory. Like, who are you? What do you do? And how'd you get to where you are now?
Yeah. First of all, thank you so much for just being able and open to having a space where we could chat and just have a real conversation. But I need you to understand, because you don't have a lot of parameters on this bad boy is going to get crazy. So I just want you to know what you're getting yourself into. The question of who are you? What do you do? How do you do it? I feel like we see it all the time in the business world. It's our way of, this sounds so probably crass, but you watch dogs walk up to each other and freaking do their version of getting to know each other. And it's funny when you go to these events, it's like, yeah, so what do you do? And it's this weird thing. And I get why we do it and we're connecting and it's not like wrong. It's just funny how people do that. But I know what you're asking too is also like, no, who are you? And what is it about you that makes you tick? Why do you do the things that you do? It's a funny question to answer because for 25 years, the answer has always been music. I grew up playing music. I grew up in the church playing music. First time I played drums in a church service would have been about 5 years old. And my mom was like a music pastor. My father was a pastor. I grew up always in that world and all I knew was music. I loved drums. I loved being a drummer. I loved playing drums. I still love it.
We'll just make it.
So for me, answering this question always had come down to being a musician, right? As I was saying, like I grew up in the church world playing drums. First time I ever played drums live, I think I was 5 years old. My mom was always, in the church playing music, great singer, great piano player. My father was a pastor. And so like I grew up thinking like, man, I'm going to do this music thing. That's all I knew. That and playing football. Because if you live in the great state of Texas, you most likely you're playing football if you're me. And so it was absolutely amazing. I loved it. And that happened all the way to 2020. I mean, I made records as a producer. I went to school for it. I played drums. I had a really cool, blessed career. I got to have a lot of stamps in my passports because of playing in really cool venues. And then I also got to experience a lot of wins and things that I never thought I would do. And it's like, how in the world does that relate to what I'm doing right now? I think that's a question I'm still answering. Is how does it relate? How in the world did I get in sales? Well, 2020 hit and right around, January 2020 was my last live show. We came back and I remember we were in Napa playing this private event and with this artist I was with and they was like, have you guys heard all this news about COVID? I was like, and they're like, yeah, it's like coming from China or something. I was like, friggin', I don't care. It's in China. What do I care? And I came back and then literally before the world shut down, we had one of the worst tornadoes come through Nashville. So March 5th, I'm with a chainsaw helping people. It devastated this huge part of a community up here. And we're cutting down trees and all that. And it wasn't right after that, whatever, the date that we, put the hold on for 2 weeks. And then by end of April, beginning of May, I had a friend ask me, he's like, hey, what are you doing for money right now? Because he knew, the music industry shut down. I was like, I've got some savings and I've got some things like this. And he's like, yeah, what are you doing with your life? And so that question of what are you doing with your life was very hard to answer because when I told him what I was doing with my life, it was like, oh, I'm in the sync industry and I'm trying to produce these songs. And then these, television shows or companies pick them up and they pay me for it. And it's, you can make money off of it. But it was like, yeah, but how are you going to actually hit your goals? And when I started backtracking and thinking, how many people control if I get to be successful or not? And that felt probably more crippling than anything that I had ever experienced. Because I was like, man, this person, then this person, then this music supervisor, and then this company and this music supervisor. I was like, I was just adding it up. I was like, at any given point, 8 to 10 people could be determining if the work that I put in on one song, if I'm knocking out, maybe I wasn't the fastest. It took me about 40 hours a song, after, writer comes in for 3 hours and they're like, great, we wrote a song. I'm like, great, I've got another, 30 something hours plus to finish this thing out. Right. And you're having to do, 3 to 4 of those a week. I mean, you can see very quickly you don't have enough time unless you have either money to outsource it or a really good system or something. So I was trying to figure all that out. And then I was like, all that hard work can be very quickly shut down if someone's like, it's not my vibe, or I'm not feeling it that day. And that's when I was like, something has to give, because I don't like that many people can determine if I'm successful or not. Now, that's not a slam on the music industry. That you can find that in anything. There's always going to be people against you, which is fine. So when he asked, when this guy asked me, he said, what if you sold here? And I was like, what does that look like? And we just had a natural, organic conversation. He wasn't like trying to sell me on coming to work for him or anything like that. It was just a very organic conversation. So I came up to the office, so this would have been maybe now June or something like that. I walked up to his office and he actually stayed open. He didn't shut down. He didn't care. And it was great. And so we came to the office, and that was on a Thursday. I accepted the remote sales position, and I was like, yeah, let me give it a whirl. I'm not doing anything else. Might as well take a swing at it. And then I started calling on a Monday and never went back to the music industry. And that was well over 6 years ago now, I guess, right at 6 years. So it was really, really, really intriguing, because never in a million years did I think like I would be doing something not related to music. And so when people ask me, hey, tell me about who you are, what do you do, and all that, it's like, man, I have a hard time not telling them that whole entire story, because I never expected to be what I'm doing now, which now we run a company called the Sales League, and it is a fractional sales management company. It's awesome. It's absolutely great. I mean, it's a complete kick in the teeth. It's challenging. It's hard. It's, like every business owner out there, you're like, why the heck did I choose to do this? And then you're like, yeah, I can't imagine doing anything else. So it's just that constant fun line that we tote. But what we get to do now, I tell people I went from producing records to producing people. And I love it because I get an opportunity to, one, help business owners build the business that they want by giving them a predictable sales system and process. And we help you find great talent, we train that talent, and then we also manage that talent for them. So it's a full white glove service offer. And I enjoy it because it's very hands-on with people, the business owners, the leaders, because we come in as like a C-suite member to that business. It's very having real honest conversations. Like I have conversations like this with business owners all the time. And I love it because, a lot of times when you're looking at these problems, you're like, do I have a people problem or do I have a process problem? And you're weighing those things. And then if it is a people problem, it's never like so-and-so just refuses to do their job. It's like, no, there's something that is causing them to make that choice to refuse to do their job. Most people are like, I don't care what it is. You're burning my money. Get the heck out of here. And I'm like, all right, fair enough. I'm not going to tell you how to do business. For me, I'm always like, well, why? Why would you choose to be less than what you're capable of? I ask myself the same question. There are things in my life that I'm extremely proud of, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm doing so well here. And then there are other areas that I massively fall short. And I'm like, why do I choose to not do the very thing that I said I know that I'm supposed to do? It's funny. We were talking a little bit about the Bible before this, and there's a great text in the New Testament, and he's basically saying, why do I do the things that I hate and don't do the things that I love, kind of a thing. It's like, why am I constantly living this struggle? And so, but it's a real joy to see. We have one rep that, like, prior to working with us, he was pretty much homeless, not able to pay for his kids, like Christmas presents and all these things like that, just struggling. And then he found us, very talented young man. I say young man, he's not young at all. He's a freaking stud of a guy, but very talented guy, and made more money in 1 year working with us. And 1 year later, from a 1 year transformation, went from barely surviving, like literally poverty level in America, to taking people on vacation, having savings, being able to pay for healthcare and pay for Christmas presents and have extra. And I'm like, I think in the sales space, a lot of times it's like, yo, I got so much money, I'm flexing. I bought this timepiece, or I bought this car, or have this thing. And I'm like, man, I'm counting success maybe a little bit differently, because I'm watching people transform their families and transform their lives. And then in his case, you're talking about transforming lineage, because his kids are getting to now see something that maybe his kids' will get to experience if he continues on that path. And so it's just a really cool way, very long-winded answer on purpose to your question.
It leads me to a couple things to touch on what you said at the end there. That's what I call legacy. Like, your legacy is not necessarily whether you are directly remembered, but it comes down to the things that you did, the choices you made to be an example or a lesson, right? And to like the butterfly effect. If I meet you and we have a good chat and then we never talk again and we forget everything, there is an impact that's happened. That means that how you approach things changes, how I approach things changes, because you talking to me delayed something else that you then didn't do, or it accelerated something that you then did do. And so for me, the interconnectedness of all that experience is an opportunity for us to learn from those things, both consciously, but also subconsciously. Like the number of people that randomly I've met once or twice, and then I chatted to them somewhere else, and I was like, hey, you said that thing about like traveling or whatever, and then like I decided to go and do that, and now we do this. Or I remember we talked about this, and it gave me this idea, and then I did that. And I think about all the things that have come good in my life, and it has come from people. My old story was that people cause problems. Like that was my experience in life, was like people, problems, avoid people, find like one or two, and then go and do your own thing. And then that got me to a certain point, but there was a stage where I had to break that belief. And it happened for me at a Tony Robbins event. And through breaking that and changing it to I love people meant that I ended up having more conversations that led to friendships or led to connections and led to different things. And it kind of brings me to the point that I want to ask you is the same thing with that guy that you talked about, the same thing with you, and the same thing that I noticed myself, and I got taught this from Tony Robbins, is that the meaning that you give something results in the emotion that you're going to have about it, because you don't experience life, you experience the emotional perspective of your life. It's like the life that you focus on, typically through your emotions. And so when you are looking at things that you're struggling with them, all of us, I don't mean you personally, we're struggling with them because we are giving them a meaning that means that we have an emotional reaction to it that makes it harder. And I always say that everything is easy. What's hard is becoming the person that would find it easy. And so like the whole concept of the show, for anyone listening, like if this is your first episode, understand that you are a series of steps away from whatever you want. But the way you get it is by first being clear on what you want and then working backwards to just do the next thing. Like if it's exercise, just put your shoes on and walk to the gym and then go, okay, cool. And then just walk home again. Next time you walk inside and you're like, I'll just lift some stuff up and do some random things and then put it down again. And eventually you develop this habit and this love of it, and that meaning shifts. Because anything that we struggle with, there is a meaning that we're giving it, which is why we struggle with it. It's like, I might like to do it, but I'm struggling because of the meaning. And so what you did for that person, and same thing with all the business owners that I've helped in my past life, is we've given people an opportunity to step up and say, do I want to now be this person that I might have thought was not possible, I might have idolized, but now I've got that shot. What am I going to do with it? And I see that in teams, like you said, it's like, why is this person not performing? It's typically because that's not presented. They've got things going on, or you've set up an environment. You maybe hired the wrong person. You didn't manage them well. But it's always us with our teams. It's always us with our own personal responsibility around things. And I'm big on not beating ourselves up about the things that we don't really want, but just saying, you know what, I don't want that right now, and reconciling it. Like I used to have a bad habit of like, I have to be jacked or whatever. And then once I accepted that, you know what, I don't want to be jacked, because if I really did, I'd be working out way more and I'd be sacrificing other things. It allowed me to reconcile that and go, yeah, so what am I focused on? And what is supporting me? It's just being fit and flexible and strong, and I can play with my kids and not get tired. Getting really rich. I don't really want to be really rich. Otherwise, I'd be just sacrificing my entire family and just working. So what do I want? I want freedom. I want choices. I want options. Okay, well, how much money is that? And then suddenly I was like, oh shit, I'm already there. And so my perspective starts to shift when you go, you know what? Maybe that thing I'm looking at is for that person because that's what they value. But what do I value? So I can lean into that, because life is short. You know what I mean? And I think not a lot of us are grateful for what we've got. And we're always comparing and thinking it's not good enough, you know?
It's interesting what you're saying there, because in the day-to-day of what I do, we kind of call this lead indicators versus lag indicators, right? And the idea is success is, in my eyes, repeated actions, repeated daily, daily actions that you repeat. And there was a statement that said, define a successful salesperson, the person who can do the right things for the longest amount of time without seeing a result. And when we look at that, I'm just kind of like, if somebody is choosing not to want X, I tell them all the time, especially even with prospects. I was like, hey, like objection handling, right? And I'll be with them. And I'll say, hey, if you don't want this, it is better for you to say, I don't want this than it is for you to say, I want this and not take action on it. Because indecision is the thief of success. That is the most costly thing a human being can do, is not make a decision in my mind. I would rather you say, no, I don't want X right now, than to say, I want it, but I refuse to do what it takes to get there. It consumes space in your mental real estate. You know what I mean? It is taking up bandwidth, emotional bandwidth. There's so many things where it just pulls on you. And it's like, why do you want to give all that up? I mean, you got this one life and you want to spend it pretending to be something that you don't actually want, because you won't actually do what it takes. I'm not saying you shouldn't, make this choice, because it is better for you. But right now it's actually more costly for you because you won't do a damn thing about it. And you just pretend.
Like the big issue that I notice is you're not setting yourself up to win. You're not being the person that you can trust, because every time you say you want something or say you're going to do it and then don't, all you're doing is you're telling yourself, yeah, I don't follow through. Yeah, I'm not someone who does things. So when you do actually want something and you're willing to start doing it, immediately that voice is like, yeah, but you don't follow through. You don't really want it. You're not going to really do it.
It kills conviction, because conviction is just a deeply seated belief. So meaning you are killing the thing that actually allows you to be successful every time you don't follow through. I'm like, if you say you're going to, hey, this week I'm taking out the trash, I'm not going to have my kids do it. This week I'm going to make $150 every day. I don't care what the result is. I don't care if your kids never see you take out the trash. Just take out the trash for yourself, just to say that I did the thing that I said that I was going to do. I'm going to start going to the gym this week. Great. No one said you had to lift when you were at the gym. You just said you were going to go to the gym. Go to the gym, walk around, be on the treadmill for 5 minutes, walk out. No, is that going to get you the results? Of course, it's not going to get you results, but we don't get results for success immediately in a flash of pan, right? Like, that's just not going to happen that way. It's going to be habits, right? And I don't know if I'm taking something from Atomic Habits right now, but in theory, it is going to be little daily things that you do that compound, because everything over zero compounds, right? So we want to just continue to do those actionable items that are pointing us in the right direction. And because conviction, confidence, belief, all of them, it's a bank account. You got to have more deposits than you have withdrawals.
And it starts with things so small. Like it's not like I say this as someone who's been through it, figured things out for themselves. So I know what this sounds like to someone who's sitting listening like, yeah, but I'm in the middle of the shit. It's like, it's not hard. It's hard to be the person that would not find it hard. That's the difficult thing. Everyone who's winning at something finds it easier than you do. I'll put it that way, because they've done it a lot and they're good at it because they did it a lot. But the thing that they got them to there is what you said around conviction and action. And then doing that over time, doing the hard shit with no reward for an extended period of time because you purely have belief. That's the entrepreneurial spirit. It's like, I got no proof this is going to work, but I'm in it for the process and the journey. That's the one who wins. I see a lot of people get into entrepreneurship these days because they think it's cool. And they suffer and struggle. And they're like, why am I not like super rich? And I'm like, because you're trying to get rich. Like, if you don't understand that you're already rich because you have the opportunity to create something for yourself, and you have gratitude for what you're in and what you're doing, what you're learning, and you don't have the time horizons correct, you'll screw everything up. Because you look at that dude on the internet who made some money and you're like, that should happen for me. Like I said it to some young guys I met at the gym the other day. I said, look, if you got 1,000 people in a room and you got them all to flip a coin and you're trying to get as many heads as you can get, there'll be a dude in that room that flipped that coin and got heads 100 times. And then you made a course and sold it to everyone about how they can flip a coin and get heads 100 times. And then one person out of the 100 people that do the course will get 50 heads in a row. And that becomes a testimonial. And this is the nature of the online world, I think, at the moment, the high ticket and low ticket and all these spaces. But the point of the story is you're not looking at the result. You're looking at the one that you can see. It's like buying crypto and someone got rich, and it's like, yeah, and everyone else lost all their money. Like if these things were like that, then it wouldn't be surprising when you looked at results, because there'd be so many that were doing that. And so what I like to look at is I go, wow, that's really cool. What did they do? And then I can start implementing some things into my life or my business or my relationship or whatever aspects of that, so that I can just level myself up in that thing rather than going, I should get that result, because that screws your head up. And the biggest thing in success is your psychology. And you'll see this with reps, right? Like you can give them the same script, you can give them the same leads, and then Dave just won't ring any of them. John will get stressed and won't say the process well. And then this other dude is just humming along. It's like he's winning. Why is he winning? Like you said, he's got conviction, he's got belief, he's staying consistent, he's learning from what he's doing, and he's doing it with enough time. Like we overestimate how much we can get done in a year and massively underestimate how much we can get done in a decade. And if all of us just did that Kaizen principle of 1% better, we'd be so much happier, so much more successful, because we wouldn't be looking at trying to always skip ahead. I think Alex Hormozy sort of said it recently. He's like, too many people are trying to double their business in 90 days. But if you focused on just growing consistently, like I said to my clients, if you just grew at 10% a month, you would double in 7 or 8 months. But to do that, you just got to look at a small number of things that you can improve by a small amount, and they all compound. But everyone's trying to do like the one thing. I'm going to do this and I'm going to be huge at the gym. I'm going to do this. I'm going to be fit. I'm going to do this. And my wife's going to love me. It's like, this is not how it works. Like no one with consistent success does that.
Yeah. I mean, if that was the case, then actually everyone would be a multi-billionaire and have six-pack abs and all of these things, because, well, yeah, if it was just that. I'm curious your thoughts, because you've kind of made a couple statements not towards this, but it feels like you're saying the same thing. But I'm just curious. I'm going to throw this out here for this conversation. This statement, it's hard being wealthy and it's hard being poor. Choose your heart.
100%. I think everyone has problems. And I think that we overvalue certain, like a really good example of this. No one looks at a dude with a 6-pack who can run 50 miles and says you're lucky, that well you must have it easy, whatever. It's like, no, because that dude ate shit to get that. But when someone's got money, it's like, it must be easy. That's nice for you, blah blah blah. It's like, no, I ate shit to get that. And if you tumble down the other side of the hill, you had to eat shit to get to that down spot. Like to have that relationship that went bad, and yes, bad things happen to people, but in reality, most of us overemphasize things that happen to us and underemphasize the things that we did in response to that, or the things that we did that accumulated in that. And it's because there's a psychological concept, like if you're late, it's because you're lazy and didn't get out of bed properly. But if I'm late, it's because the wind and the bird and the bus and everything out of my control. We externalize for ourselves and internalize when it's for others. But money's an interesting one, because there is a feeling, because it's less tangible to watch, because no one sees you eat shit. But they do see people seem to come out of nowhere. 10 years in the making, overnight success, right? But when you see someone who looks good or whatever, like, the part of you just know they had to do the work to get there. And so there's a knowingness that there's work in those things. But with money, there's still this, I don't know what it is. I think I don't know what it is, but people struggle with that.
Why do you believe people are struggling with a misconception of overnight success?
I think because I've thought about this before, and I had a really good answer for this, but I think people struggle with it because everyone wants the result, but they don't want to do the work. And that, plus the general cultural beliefs around money and the eat the rich and the billionaires are bad and that kind of mentality, means that we all strive to do better. That's why we all want to get a pay rise, and why we all want to get a promotion, and why we all want to, we buy a lottery ticket and we do these things that would edge us towards having wealth. But at the same time, most people are conditioned with terrible beliefs about money because of that stuff that I just said, that we also say that we don't want it, even though we do. And that when we're looking out at the world, we're not looking at all the hard work we have to do, or the timing and luck that's involved, or the connections and whatever, and the hustle and the time. We're looking at the people that seem to pop out of nowhere, and we say, well, I want it like that. I want to pop a pill to lose. I want a Ozempic to lose weight. I want this person to come and just train my dog, and it's magic. I get to have a dog and I get to treat it like a person, but it's never going to bite anyone. And I don't have to keep it outside and off my bed. I want to have the cake and eat it too, metaphorically. And so I think with wealth, it's hard because we see people with lots and we immediately think that's good, but we don't pay attention to the number of wealthy people that kill themselves, the number of wealthy people that are not good parents, that are not good in their health, that are not good in other areas, because we as a culture, overemphasize significance, and wealth is the ultimate significance, I think, play. Because you can have a dude who's ripped and he'll get girls. But the bald, overweight Russian with a yacht, the girls are going to move to him, right? Like you can have that's like from a bro culture perspective.
Yeah, money's going to move the needle a lot faster than just because you could be jacked and dead broke. They ain't going to stay very long. They might be there for a moment, but in that moment and then context of what you're saying, yeah, there's always going to be something that actually moves the needle more. I think a lot of times it's what, they want what they can't control, or they're confusing comfort with progress. You know what I mean? When it comes to like, what is success? So both of our kids are 13. So I have a biological son and an adopted daughter from Kampala, Uganda, and they're 3 months apart. And I asked my wife 2-3 days ago, and I was like, why does, and I'm not going to name the child, but I said, why does this child do this? I'm like, it's like they're intentionally trying to annoy me. You know what I mean? It's like they're purposefully set out on doing this. And, and the one thing that we have always pride ourselves upon is the fact that when our kids were young, we could take them out with people who didn't have kids, people who weren't even married, and still have a good time. Because we kind of got married a little bit earlier than a good group of our crew friends did, and had kids faster than most people did. And so we still had friends who were single and still kicking it, and we had kids. And they're like, how is it that y'all can be out here still having a great time, going out to dinner, and your kids are just behaving and doing all these things? And I've been looking at that consistently because, I watch other kids. Like, nothing drives me crazier than unparented kids. To me, it's as bad as untrained dogs. I'm just like, and again, I know somebody would want to clip that. This dude thinks parenting is the same thing as raising dogs. Well, no, but also kinda. Do you want a dog that when you walk into somebody's house, the dog jumps on your lap, starts licking you, starts slobbering on you, putting everywhere, barking, yelling, screaming? Do you want that type of an animal when you come over? Or do you want a dog who knows how, what we call place, knows how to stay in its place, or knows how to stay in its kennel or its yard, and knows how to behave? Nothing's worse than walking a dog that doesn't know how to go on a walk. They're just all over the place. They're left, they're right. They don't know how to heel. They don't know how to be by your side. They don't know how to, because it doesn't make the experience enjoyable. Now, I'm not saying kids are an experience that have to be enjoyable, but I am saying that for people to grow I think if parents could just get this, it takes work to have good kids. It takes work. If you say you're going to do something, you actually have to do it. When we did correction with our kids, and we still do, and we disciplined and we still do, I followed through on it. That is the number one thing for success. We were consistent with our kids. I'm not saying we have perfect kids and they don't ever mess up. I'm just saying that, and my wife brought that back up to me. She goes, we're having to learn how to parent all over again. This is a new season of their life. This teenage years, what we did when they were 4 and 5 is not going to work. We have to get better. And she's like, so that means more work. That means improving, reading, studying, learning from others who have had successful teenagers. It means doing what we can to make sure the result that we want, which is 2 humans that are in our care for right now, that we're stewarding, that we can help facilitate 2 good humans and can go into society and can contribute, can be of value, can be of impact, whatever they choose to do, right? But they're going to know how to operate. They're going to know how to be contributors, not leeches and pull on the system, but actually how to get to that. That's going to take work on us. You know what I mean? If I want to have kids that are well-behaved and well-mannered, and I want to have kids who know how to look people in the eyes, shake their hand the right way. No, me and my daughter's word right now is bold. She is about the nicest human being in the whole entire world, but she lacks boldness. Now, I'm not asking her to be like me. I'm not asking her to go be some alpha type person and be somebody she's not. I'm asking her to be confident in who she is, whomever that is going to be and whatever she's going to chase down, but be bold and confident in that. And I think sometimes, David Goggins, let's go back to that. You look at the jack person, it's like, oh yeah, it's like, dude, I love David Goggins' story. I love everything about what he does and reads that. I have zero desire to run 100-mile marathons. That's just not what I'm chasing down. I am chasing down health. I am chasing down what I believe is my version of or what should be my version of a healthy person. And that's what I'm chasing down. But I'm not trying to run that because I'm not willing to pay that price for that result. Great. If you read David Goggins' books and you think, oh my, if I'm going to be like him, I now have to do all these things. I disagree. You can actually pull the principles and extract what he's doing the sacrifice, or as you said, the eating of the shit, you know, you can put those, but then in your life, in the way that you're trying to go, you know, what is pushing it for you? And then that goalpost move once you accomplish that, because it's a journey, not a destination, right? And so when I look at, even with the kids, it's like, are you willing to put in the work to actually have the family you want to have, the marriage you want to have? I mean, we had to get to such a point. We use Jesse Itzler's big ass calendar. And I love this thing because I really love seeing things at a big macro level. I like seeing the whole entire year, and then we mark it off and it kind of becomes fun. And then we have our family meetings and we said, okay, what did we do here? Did we hit the goals that we were wanting to do? We actually had more friend time than we thought, or we hung out with so-and-so. We have all of our date nights listed out. And then we have planning meetings for the type of date nights we wanted. Why? Because we went almost 3 years straight, James, with never missing a date night. But we couldn't go back and remember exactly what was impactful about them. We just set aside time to be together. And then this year I was like, yeah, I don't want to do that. I'd rather have less date nights and have something that's impactful that we will never forget. Now, I'm not trying to have less date nights, obviously, but the point was we had to shift why we are doing this. Oh my God, intentionality is the most underrated word literally that we have in society, right?
If to circle back to what we're talking about, like with wealth and going after that, and to link it back in, I think the key thing, like I just said, is that intentionality and the work. I think we all want the good thing, but we're not willing to do the work. And that's obvious with things where there's a direct correlation and you and everyone else can see it and go, yeah, like if I want to have a six pack, the only way for me to do that is to not eat food like this and to exercise like this. And then you do it for like 5 minutes and you go, this sucks and I get no reward straight away. And I'm not going to have a six pack for like 18 months. And you go, damn. And you immediately you stop judging that and you go, okay. But then with the money thing, because we want the money, it's like that feels like it should be easier because we're sold this idea that it should. But we don't look at it with health. We don't look at it with a relationship. We don't look at it with kids. It's like the only thing, maybe someone in the comments can point something else out, but like it's like the only thing where there is a detachment from the work. And I think it's because of the cultural identity around money that somehow there's a finite amount and that anyone with it has taken mine. That's why I don't have it. And it's like, no one took your six pack, dude. No one took your good relationship. No one took your money. And I think until that changes, which I don't think that it will, unless we have some kind of wild cultural shift. I was actually talking to our nanny, sidetrack for a second. And she was like, obviously I'm not going to do this forever. And, at some point I want to do things and, make money and whatever. And I was like, yeah, but what's that going to mean? Because in 10 years, like the world's going to be real weird. And I was showing her some AI stuff and telling us some things. And she's like, oh my God, like things are changing. I was like, yeah, it's going to be real weird. I said, what you have to immediately reconcile, which is what I'm trying to reconcile with get my kids to understand. They're really young, but like I'm slowly bringing it in, is you have to detach from money being a point of value, like a thing to attain, because your quality of life will be so good with so little that it would have cost millions or hundreds of thousands for people like us to have, at that age. Like right now we have more technology in our hands, more knowledge, more movies and entertainment than the pharaohs of Egypt that owned half the world. But we bitch about it because so-and-so's got money and they have a nicer apartment. And it's like, that's going to get even worse because everything is going to get cheaper and easier to have. And we haven't worked to get it. And so we just expect it. And so I think the key thing to take from this, anyone listening, is like lower your expectations about how it should be and understand that everything that you want takes work, because that's God's gift, is to say, here's this thing. Now that you've decided that you want it, become the person that will have it, which requires work. And so the things that you don't want for, you typically get because you don't want for them. That's what I've noticed. But the things that you do want, that's the universe, that's God, that's an opportunity for you to now become a person because you've decided it, you made a decision, so you go after it. And like to the kids, exactly. Kids, dogs, relationship, wife, husband, like do you want them to behave and be someone that you can take out and go with and do things and enjoy? It takes work. You got to figure that stuff out. Jordan Peterson said it. He goes, you got 4 years to raise your kid. After that, it's very hard to train out behaviors. And you got 4 years to get them to a place where adults like them. Because if adults don't like your kids, they don't spend time with your kids and your kids don't learn anything. And I've really taken that. Like, adults love my kids because they talk and they ask questions and they reflect. And it's like, yeah, they're going to go places because everything that they want is going to be through people and people sharing stuff with them. And like, you go up and ask an adult, often we're adults, what I'm talking about. You go and ask somebody, they'll often share stuff with you, but there's the holding back. But a child goes and asks, and it's like, oh yeah, let me tell you all about this, because we all have this connection to kids. And I think anyone with kids, no matter how old they are, if you can help them, like help raise them to be people that people like, not comply with. Like, I'm not saying everyone wears a red hat, you should wear a red hat too. But I'm saying like people that people like they can talk to people and people will like them. It opens the world up because everything that they're going to want is through people. And in the next 10 years, the world's going to get so weird. And I think the only thing that's going to be left is human interaction. We're all going to go off into this weird like VR world, false reality. We're all going to go see the Eiffel Tower with headsets on. And then what's going to be left is going and actually seeing the fucking Eiffel Tower. Like, that's going to be the only real thing left. Going to the concert's going to be the only thing left. You know what I mean? Not just listening to the music.
Live events are coming back like crazy because of that. People are so, going back to when we were talking about 2020, it created such a shift where people are like, oh my God, I love it. I work remote now and I do this. And the people didn't want to go back into the office. And I can understand that perspective. But I feel like what we're losing is these devices are connecting us at this exact same time, disconnecting us more, right? There's millions of documentaries probably on this subject, so I'm not saying anything new here. But the point that I'm seeing right now is that people are starved for authenticity. I told a group of reps yesterday I was training, and I was like, do you realize people do not want a sales conversation? They want to solve a problem. They want to have a real conversation with somebody who gives a damn. I was like, I don't care what you know in sales. If your conviction is high and you actually care about the person you're talking about, and I don't mean like weird, like, oh my God, empathy. I'm strategic empathy where you're a human. You can say, listen, in this 45-minute call and this 2-hour experience, I'm going to give you my undivided attention because you matter. I'm here. My time matters. Your time matters. Let's have a mutual respect for each other. And let's see if we can come to a conclusion for you versus like, how can I get money out of this person? They can snip that out. They can smell it because everything is vying for their attention and jacking with them. And it's like you could be the breath of fresh air of real human connection just by the way you talk, actually, scratch that, by the way you listen. Have true, genuine, active listening going on. And I promise you, you'll close more deals than you could ever imagine if you focus on the prospect, not on your, freaking bank account. It's there. It will come. There's an abundance of money and people think that there's not. And I'm like, in America right now, we're saying we're in a recession. We're not in a recession. There's an economy at the time of this recording, all that. And the economy is garbage. And I was just in Utah for the same event when you were, and multi-million dollar houses were going up by the droves. I'm like, maybe. Yeah. Gas prices are crazy. Bacon's still bonkers. People are paying way too much for milk. I'm not saying none of that at the time of this recording, right? In 2026. But yet still money is being spent like crazy. So I don't think that people have a true concept of what's available to them. So therefore they have a lesser viewpoint of what they're capable of doing. And then they live under this.
Some people live in a recession. So you got to listen through the noise and be like, what are you hearing? And where is it coming from? And then where is the money? Because it hasn't disappeared. It's just redirected. And maybe Dave didn't have much in the first place. So he's feeling the pinch with that milk. So maybe don't listen to him about the economics because there's another gap there. Not a judgment, but like there's another, like don't listen to your friend who's divorced 5 times about how to have a good marriage. Listen about like, dude, what did you do to end all those marriages, man? And then just don't do that. Like we have to pick what we listen to and pick what we learn from and not just take, because what happens is we all have a blueprint of the world. And then we're looking for things that validate that to give us certainty and security. And so we hear economy's bad because we think the economy's bad because we are having a hard time or our mindset around money's off. And so we get this validation because we're all just looking for constant validation around those sorts of things.
We're about to side rabbit trail, so you can bring us back on. Why is it, and I'm going to use one particular example right now, but I think it applies to multiple things. So I'm gonna pinpoint one, pull it out of context because I know how people operate. That the most notable people on the internet right now teaching marriage courses, programs, and things like that are people who've been divorced more than the people who have long-standing relationships. There are people who have long-standing relationships and they have their marriage courses or conference on it. But right now I feel like what's been elevated is the person's like, oh yeah, but they had a failed marriage. So I'm gonna listen to them because now they have a successful one. I'm like, why would you not listen to the person who didn't fail? Why are we elevating? And I'm not trying to poo-poo on people who like freaking are divorced. That's not what this is about. It's just like we're elevating like, oh, because you failed at it and now you're successful, you're more equipped to speak on it than someone who actually like kept it going.
I think there's a few things. I'm going to try and not get canceled. I think number one is there is an inherent, you've failed at something and then you've built back up again, realness that adds a layer of truth and validity to what you're saying because you've experienced the other side. Like if a person's never had a bad relationship, is that because they're good at picking relationships and good at relationships, or is it because they're lucky? You don't know. Put them in a bad relationship. How do they do? Is it a good one now? Because maybe they just have like a really easy spouse. They're a dick, but their spouse is so good, so it just works. So it's like I think that there's an element of your ability to go through troubles that prove and validate that you have strategy that works. I also think that there's a humanness to it, that no one wants to learn from the person who's always just been successful because it makes you feel inferior, and you want to hear about the person who struggled because it makes it more human. And then they can, because there's a sense of validation, like, oh yeah, they struggled too. Plus the other thing that I said.
False though, because I would say almost 15 years, we're 15 years in now, going on 16. We've not been divorced, but that does not negate that we've not been through the craziest struggles. That does not negate that there were moments, especially in the beginning of our marriage, where we almost did and we didn't make it. So that's what I'm saying. That's what drives me crazy, is that we think, oh, because you had a major catastrophe and built back up, that is elevated than people who had catastrophes but didn't. In the case of marriage, they didn't get divorced.
For validation about the stories and the things they believe. The other part too is that society's shifted very on this like feelings matter, everyone's opinion is equal, those who've experienced things know things type vibe. And I just don't think that's real. Like you don't go to the top cancer surgeon because they've had cancer and they overcame it. You go to the top cancer surgeon because they're the top cancer surgeon. Like they don't have to have had cancer to know what it's like to be the top cancer person. If they have, it adds an empathetic humanness to it that might make them have a better way of explaining or a better bedside manner. But it doesn't mean, it doesn't wait ahead of them being just good at the thing. And I think that's what people, they misconstrue as like experience is good. How do I put this? There are so many business owners. I'm in the business development space, right? There's so many business owners that have done the wrong thing for a long time. So they're experienced at the wrong shit. And I've been in this for 15 years means nothing to me unless like without knowing anything else. Because just because you've done time means you've had a lot of experiences. Like you just said, I had five marriages, right? Well, you got a lot of experience. Yeah, but what? Like, did you learn anything from them? Took you 5 times. What did you learn at those 5 things for me to listen to you? And is that aligned with what I'm trying to create? So I'm not saying that it's good or bad. I'm saying that each of us needs to look for what we're wanting and go, is this serving me getting there? Or am I looking for a validation? And I think that the way things are these days, we're all seeking a validation, and we're all feeling that experience of a thing gives validity to the thing. And the truth is, the truth is the truth, and the best path is the best path. Whether or not a person's had an experience or not, I feel like is more true. Like, you get what I'm saying? Like, there's definitely, you can have a divorce and learn things and grow from it and become better at it. And then you've learned things and, you're sharing that with people 100%. But that by itself being some kind of factor to mean that you must be good at relationships. No, I think the other part to this is,
yeah, I think that's what it's that point is what I'm getting at, where you're just saying it's like, it's not that you can't go through hardships and have, you can't have a marriage that you ended in divorce and then you learned from that and you grew from that. Phenomenal. And people can learn from that. I'm not saying don't do that. It's just that we're elevating that as if it is a better way to learn. And I'm like, I don't like that, because now we're dictating, okay, well then success means this type of a failure to be successful. And it's like, Well, no, because everyone has to go through some level of failure and some level, because you, at least in my experience, 44 years, about to be 45 years on this earth, I have lost more than I have won in life. And my most successful people that I look up to have lost more than they have won in life. And it's the ability to keep going, but to just say this person's loss and failures are greater, so therefore what they say is elevated I'm like, that's what I can't get behind. Because I'm like, now we're getting lost in craziness, and it's just a waste.
Toxic empathy. That's the sort of the egalitarian, like, we all matter thing. And I just don't think, I think some people's opinions are not as good as other people's opinions. Like, I'm not to say whose opinion is, but there's definitely some dumb opinions. And so with these things, we got to look at it and break it apart and go, okay, what's being said and what's actually valid. Like when I was coming up, it was always that I lived in a dumpster and then I like made it and now I'm successful. Like it was like, how bad could your story be to show that you were somebody humble who's now successful? And that's because we're looking for a relatability. And so a lot of people, I think, if they've come out of this particular example, but I think it relates to anything. It's like if I've come out of a thing that's relatable to the people that I'm talking to, often I've now got a positive frame, so I can relate to that, and I can then relate to what they want. And because it's currently good, typically it's not like I got divorced and then I spent 10 years figuring out how to be married a second time and now I'm launching a course. It's I got divorced last month and am now making a course on how to have a really good marriage, but I'm currently in like springtime of my marriage cycle. You know what I mean? So of course it's good. So it's like, that's the catch-22. You want to talk to the people who are happy and they've been together for 30 years. And then what does happy mean? Because are they pleasant because they just don't talk to each other? Or are they passionate and they in love and they kiss all the time and they're exploring life and they've got a bunch of kids and businesses that have crashed and they've grown? Like that's the person to learn from, not the person who, just like I said before, I've now got a business teaching people how to flip coins because I succeeded once, but it wasn't really me. It's like, you've got to look at, when I tell anybody to pick a coach or pick anybody as an advisor, I like looking for somebody who's done things themselves and then has done it with others and repeated results with them. Because it's one thing to do it yourself, but teaching is a completely different world, which is why the top coaches were not ex-championship players. Because coaching and being a player are two different things. And a lot of the players that try and be coaches, it just doesn't work because it's a different thing, right? And so but in business, it feels like, oh, he's successful, or she's successful, so therefore I should listen to them. It's like, no, maybe you shouldn't, because have they got any evidence for being able to get others a result? Did they get the result themselves and they got others a result, and now it's a person that we can maybe listen to? So
owners, and they're like, because when we come in and we build out sales teams for these organizations to truly go to the next level, and then the business owner's like, well, when I sold it, and I'm like, you can't deduce down at all why you do what you do. You can't codify it in any single way. You're a freaking owner. You should be able to sell the best. You should be closing at 70-80% because it's your vision. In theory, you are the trust. You are the whole entire thing that it is. So don't give me that like, well, when I sold it this way, I was like, great, then why couldn't you repeat it? Why did you have to have, us come in or, hire a sales manager, have salespeople? Because you couldn't. You hit your cap and then you couldn't codify what you did. You might be able to lead, you might be able to guide, but you couldn't actually break down because you had no process. You were hustling and grinding and you built this in your freaking garage and you did whatever it could and you were closing however you could. But that is not what scales. Systems, processes, things that are repeatable, those things scale. And so it's like, when people get here and they're like, I know some people who are very, very good at reading something and then immediately teaching it because they're charismatic, but they've not lived it. They don't own that lane. They don't actually truly understand, this is what it means for this principle to be real in my life. I have workshopped this. I have been through the fire with it. And I know that this works. If I wanted to go get investing advice right now, I would not go take it from somebody who just did a bunch of research for the last year and says, well, no, I know all this research. I'm like, but you don't have any success through it. Show me the success that you had through 2008. Show me the success that you had through 2020. Show me the ups and downs where you were able to fight with all of the ebbs and flows of what's going on. Then I want to take investing advice from you. But if you are just really great at consumption and then regurgitation,
a lot of crypto millionaires when the market's going up and everyone's got a course, and then it goes away when the market goes down, because the correlation is the market's moving. It's not your skills. And I think that's like another point that I would say too, is you want to look for people who have done it repeatedly. Like if you've built one business, let's say to $1 million or whatever, And it's like, oh my God, right? But have you done it again and again? Because if you've done it more than once, then there's something going on. Like there's this dude I interviewed on my podcast years ago, and he's fit, fat 40 or something like that. No, fit, fat, whatever it is. Really fit dude, decided to like eat terrible for like 6 months, gained 100 pounds, and then lost it all again. And it was to experience what his clients are going through and to understand, can you do this? And what does it really take? And in having that experience, he realized some hard parts of it that changed how he was training his clients. And so he's got fit, and then he got fit again, and then he got fit again. So it's like he has a process that works. So the irony of what we're saying right now, back to the divorce counselors or whatever, is the learnings in that help, but the fact that you suffered doesn't mean that your advice is any better. It's what you did with it and then what you proved with it that matters. Because ideally, you have done well, struggled, and then did well again. Because what that shows is that you have a system to make the change. And I think that's what matters, not just you suffered and you got a result. It's like, is it a repeatable result for yourself? Is it a repeatable result for others? Because then you, as you said, you've lived it. And I think all of this just leads to conviction, right? Conviction is the key, especially when you're selling. There's too many young dudes these days making businesses off of stuff. And I'm like, some of the stuff they're saying, I'm like, man, like go and build something first and then come and tell people. Like, I don't like listening to people who got rich, teaching people how to get rich off of the thing that they get rich in. There's this classic example. Let me change the story so that it doesn't allude to who it is. I do this thing to teach people how to make money. And the way that I get you to be a client is by doing the thing that I'm selling you. So it's very circular, and it really shows you that it works because you became a client through that thing. But I haven't built anything outside of the thing. I'm building the thing in the thing. That for me does my head in, because you can't discern whether or not they've got business skills or it's just a really good offer timed really well that is really self-fulfilling. Because the better I get, the more proof there is, because the thing I'm selling is the thing that you're buying. So it becomes like and it's an illusion as to the skill. And so I like to look for people who have built something outside of the thing, and then it's gone through the ups and downs and it's been there for a long time.
That's just the new version of multi-level marketing. I mean, that's all that really is. It's like, I'm selling you this thing so that you can go and sell it. And that's actually how I get money, which, I mean, I've seen people make the argument every business under the sun is a multi-level marketing type of framework, meaning that like there's someone at the top and then you bring people underneath you and they keep growing and it grows. And I can see both sides of the coin. I'm not here to say either or, but I think it's not that did you struggle and have you been successful, struggle, and then been successful? And going back to the divorce thing, it's not that I'm trying to hate on anyone that's ever been divorced. That's not the point. I think it's more closer to what you're saying, where it's like, I learned this, I immediately, I recently got divorced, and now I'm going to create and try to give you advice on how not to do what I just went through. And it's like, no, you might need to actually sit with this trauma, this thing that you just experienced that was very real, and work through that before you try to give advice, because you're still learning. It's still fresh. That's still very new, and people are like right in the heat of it. And it's like, you haven't worked through this yet. And I think that's my bone to pick with, especially as many businesses that we're getting to help and these sales reps that we're helping. It's like, if you just learn something, work through it before you try to like make it a law and be like, yeah, this is great. Now this is the dogma for my whole entire life. It's like, whoa, maybe, are you sure about that? Because you just figured this out like seconds ago. And now you are living at as if there is no other way. And I think that closes us off to continuing to be able to grow from that revelation or that transformation that you just had, is allowing it. Because when people get that revelation, that aha moment, something was in their life that opened them up to be like, oh, wow, there could be more. Maybe they came through a really tough time, so they became seekers. And all of a sudden now they're looking to expand. And then they get it and they're like, okay, got it. And then now we're closed back off again.
I'll tell you what it is. People are looking for certainty. So now there's 6 human needs, right? Certainty, variety, significance, connection, and love, and growth, and contribution. And the key, the number one thing we all need is certainty. I need to know that the floor is not going to open up and I'm not going to fall through it and die. And so and especially when we have little control, or it feels like we have little control over the world and our life around us because we're looking to try and control it. And so we don't have the control. We're not going with the flow. Like the person surfing has control because they're not trying to control the surfboard. They're trying to surf. The person who's riding the bike has control because they're not trying to stay upright. They're trying to ride the bike, right? They're in flow with it. And so when we've been unstable and we learn a new piece of information or have a new experience and we get an aha, we grab hold of it and go, this is how things work. And we hold on to that. And to validate it, we then go and tell everyone else about it because it feels significant and we get connection from them. We feel a sense of growth. And it's like now there's variety. And so we get addicted to it. Once you meet more than 3 of your needs off of something, you get addicted to it. And so it's a perpetual cycle.
What you just said about, I think it is Tony Robbins has the 6 human needs, right? And they're like, certainty, uncertainty, significance, love and connection, growth, contribution. Our grandparents and great grandparents, they had to, they got all of them for free by staying alive. Where now we actually have to build an environment that creates that earning. Because, prime example, yes, we live in a neighborhood where there's a grocery store and my kids can literally walk to it. And I'm like, we're out of butter. Yeah, just take your bike down the store and go pick it up. They didn't realize like, oh no, like freaking milk the cow. You know what I mean? Feed the cows, move the cows around so that way we can get milk, which then we turn into butter. They're not going to experience that. We have to have we have to have a downfall of civilization for them to actually have that level of hard, right? I'm not saying I want my kids to have that level of hard, but I'm saying now, if I want them to, as you were saying, to be in society, to be liked, not like, again, because I know how people operate. We don't mean in like uniformity. I don't mean uniformity. That means we all say the same thing, act the same way, talk the same, dress the same. Unity means we come together despite our differences. But our ability to be into society, completely different who we are, but still be contributors and actually have normal conversations. It's like, for them to experience that, I have to, as their parent, manufacture hard for them. They're not. Yeah, they're not going to experience that. And so it's just been a really cool conversation around that because it gets you thinking, how can I have strategic empathy for the people that I'm leading or that are around me, to where when I'm teaching them, guiding them, training them, helping them, whatever it is that I'm contributing to them, do I have what it takes to understand where they're at and see it from their perspective to help them be the best version? Or am I just myself being like, well, this is how you do it and this is how it has to be done, and I'm not open myself to helping them explore? So it's definitely been valuable.
One thing I'll say is you can't help people. You can only facilitate them helping themselves. Your job is to be a beacon with hands that are out so that they can come along and take that hand. And this is my experience as a health professional, dealing with people that are suffering with pain and anxiety and stuff like that, and seeing thousands of them. It's like the lead a horse to water, make it drink thing is so true. And I think that once I accepted that I'm not here to help anybody and that I cannot help anybody, it took a pressure off, because instead of me empathizing with their situation, I sympathized and I tried to take it on and resolve it. And it's like, because I want better for you and I want to help you. And now I'm trying to like get in there and help you. And you can't help people. You want to be someone that inspires them. So someone that they look up to, someone that they can learn from. You've got to be able to understand their worldview if you want to be able to influence them. But your job is to not help them. It's to not change them. It's to aim to influence as best you can without losing part of yourself, because then you can't go and help the rest. Like planes going down, mask on you analogy, right? So that you can go put the mask on everyone else. That's the difference between empathizing and sympathizing. Sympathizing is, oh my God, you can't breathe. Have my mask. And then I pass out and then you do nothing with it. Empathizing is going, that sucks, dude. Let me see if we can get you a mask. Oh, we can't. Here's a bit of mine, but it's still my mask, because I am a person who's going to go out there and help a lot of other people, to facilitate, should I say, a lot of other people to helping themselves. And so it all comes back to, it's not that we don't love our neighbor and want to help our neighbor. It's that we have to take responsibility of ourselves first. We're going to make our bed. We're going to be that person. We're going to show up for our team by being a person who that they would be inspired by having processes and systems in the business so that people can come and operate a machine that was built for them, not just like, hey, dude, figure it out, fuck. And then they can't succeed because you didn't set them up to succeed. You didn't set your kids up to succeed, your spouse up to succeed. Like, you're just like, you should know what I want. You should just like make me happy. That's a terrible way to have a relationship. You should know what you want. You should know what makes you happy. And you should communicate those things while not being a dick and expecting them to make you happy. You same thing with your kids, your friend. Like, this is life is self accountability. I'm responsible so that I'm an inspiring person that others look at and go, man, that's awesome. And you're down to earth enough that you can have your hand out, you understand their worldview, and you can guide them, because that's how you will help people, is by not trying to help them, but by facilitating them. And that starts with you. Like, that's something I wrote down earlier to talk about, but just what I mentioned is do what you say what you mean, and mean what you say. It's a cycle. Like, you've got to set yourself up to win. You've got to set others up to win. You do that by doing what you say. But it's not just what you say. It's you got to say what you mean, and then you got to mean what you say. And if you can live that trifecta, then there is an inherent trust, a conviction in you that, like, I'm going to follow through. And there's a conviction for others because they look at you and go, yeah, I can follow that person because I know that they're coming from a place of integrity and they own this. Like, if you're trying to convince, like you're talking about sales, you're trying to convince somebody to do something, it's never going to work. You've got to guide them to it through your own conviction. They've got to see the truth. So I think to wrap all that up, like, you think about your kids, you think about your prospects, you think about your employees, it all comes back to that. You know what I mean? It's that identity underneath. What identity are you holding about this thing? Because that's going to influence all of it. I heard this really interesting analogy from this guy called Master Co, and it really got me kind of thinking about life. So we're a bit esoteric for a second here. We are beings, and we are beings that are having a human experience. We are inside a glove. The glove is a human experience, and our soul is the thing that's in the glove, puppeting it around. The glove has some properties to it. It's got thoughts, it's got emotions, and it's got feelings, like what it can feel in its hands, tactile, right? You've been given the ability to interact with the world, but if you just let that go crazy, then you hurt people and you're unproductive. You've been given the ability to think so that you can analyze and plan and build. But if you let that go crazy, then it's going to be destructive, right? That's what anxiety is. It's just letting your thoughts go crazy. Violence is letting your physical actions go crazy. And then your emotions give you the ability to experience passion and love and connection. If that goes crazy, you have problems. And so our job is to use the tools that we've been given and manage them, keep them under control so that they don't go crazy, so that we can have a balanced experience of the life and create as much as we can with what we've been given with the time that we've got, because we don't know how much time we've got. And so when we navigate that, like that for me was like, oh yeah, when my brain says, you might die, like I've had a bad history of anxiety, depression, things like that. It's like, thanks for that thought. Appreciate that. Don't need that right now. Like, that's not helpful, right? Or I have a feeling. I'm like, oh, cool. Thanks for that. Don't need that right now. I don't need emotions. This is business. This is logic. I'm going to get into the numbers. And my physical hands want to smack someone who's talking smack. It's like, thanks. I don't need that right now, right? Or I don't need to grab for that bag of chips, or I don't need to go and do that thing, grab for Netflix. It's like letting yourself realize that you are more than those things. Because when you go to do something, when you go to think, you thought the thought. So you existed before the thought. When you felt something, you existed before the feeling. And when you moved your body, you existed before you moved it. So you were outside of those things. This might sound super weird to everyone, but like that for me really got me to go, yeah, I'm more than this. So let me use this as best I can to glorify whatever matters to me, because that's my opportunity. And with that perspective, I became a lot more grateful for what I've got. And I didn't look to compare anything. I said, look what I've got in comparing to me and my past self. Like, what did 25-year-old James do that was good? What did 25-year-old James do was not good, that 35-year-old James is pissed about, so that I can look at 45-year-old James and go, is 45-year-old James going to be proud of 35-year-old James? And how am I using what I've been given? Yeah. I don't know why I was going down that tangent, but felt like I need to share that one.
Yeah, that's good. It's good. It's very interesting. You said something that I think is for another conversation, but you wrapped everything up by saying, and we do all this to glorify, whatever we think deserves it. And I think it's, when I look at my own faith, if I'm doing anything to glorify anything other than God, then for me, I'm in the wrong, because like, that's not what I'm here to do. And so it changes the way that I act and I think, especially, I'll use basic analogies. Road rage, bro, that gets me probably more than anything else. It's just people who continue to make dumb decisions when they drive. And I will say that is one area where my kids can see how weak I am and how piss poor of an example I am to them. And I know that because now my son will be like, Dad, should you have honked at that guy for how he drove? And I was like, no, what I should have done is change how I drive so that you don't see how to operate. And I've shown you how to operate on the road as a poor thing. And that is not directing people, or in my opinion, and how I operate. And I ain't putting this on anybody, but in no way am I glorifying God or honoring him in that way by doing that, because now I've shown my kid that feeling and that emotion that you were just talking about, reaching for the bag of chips or your hands of violence or whatever. It's like, oh, yeah, I deem that as worthy. And so now I'm going to, give that attention. And that person didn't do what I thought that they should have done, as opposed to being like, that person could be like literally having the worst day of their life or trying to rush home because somebody's sick or something, and having zero understanding of anything outside of what I deem as valuable. And so that's a longer conversation for
We all do things for reasons, man. Like every person, something that I learned too is like, there's always a reason. Everyone does things for a reason, and we should never judge their intention because they believe it's good. Like all people do all things for things they think is good, no matter how evil it is, because they're doing it because they're doing it for the good for themselves. They're doing it for the good for their group, right? But they're all acting with a good intention for something. And the smallest thing could be personal pleasure. Now, we might disagree with the means, right? But if we can empathize with the fact that it's always coming from that perspective, then we don't judge the person, but we can judge the action. And then we can look to guide for better actions because we're all just trying to meet our needs. And when we realize that, we stop putting ourselves on a pedestal and we start saying, wow, imagine what's going on with that person. Like something must be going on for them. So when that person is a dick, it's like, man, something must be going on for them, rather than me just going, hey, screw you. Or if they're driving bad or they're acting bad or whatever, understanding that it's from our view that we are seeing that. But if we saw it from their view, maybe we're the bad guy. And so in that moment for me, I was trying to remind myself, it's like, I say, wow, that was fascinating. Rather than going, I'm frustrated and angry. It's like, wow, I'm fascinated. That's fascinating. Or I'll say, wow, I wonder what's going on for them. Like that's rough.
I'd be like, I'm so fascinated that you're such an idiot on the road. I'm so fascinated by your inability to use your blinker.
Yeah. It's like, wow, maybe he doesn't have an arm and he can't reach for it. Or maybe like, and I think about things like that because the reality is that, and this is not on you, right? But just for the audience, the reality for this is you doing that judgment only hurts you because they don't know. And then, so you're living with it, thinking about it's in the shower, you've got your tally chart, another dickhead on the road, and all it's causing suffering is to you. And then it causes suffering to your children because they learn those things and then they replicate it. And then people get into accidents that comes from a butterfly effect of things generationally. And that for me, I was like, damn, I need to show up as best as I can, as often as I can, because my legacy is going to be the butterfly effect of the things. And so when I'm like shitty with my kids or I'm busy working or whatever my kids need me, like I'm not a perfect parent, but I'm trying to catch those things and change that story and show up that little bit better, that 1% every day. Because if we can have that consciousness of like one better every day, what we end up with a decade later, 55-year-old Josh is happy with 45-year-old Josh's decisions. And I think that's all we've got really, because otherwise what the other side of this, dude, is you'll say that's too hard and then we won't change at all. And then 55-year-old Josh will be disappointed at 45-year-old Josh because I'm living this life that dude created for me. And so change the bigness of stuff. And if we can just shrink it down to like little things, it's the habits. I wrote a note down. You said it best, like success is daily actions repeated. Like doesn't matter what it is. So I'm going to hold you to that. I'll hit you up. Be like, dude, you still raging at people on the road. This has been really good. I want to know where people can check out more of your stuff and go and see what you're up to.
Yeah, honestly, the easiest way is probably, Instagram, just at Josh Alltop. But I mean, for me, it's like wherever you can, I I actually respond to all of my DMs still. I enjoy it. And I mean, it's probably not the best use of my time, but I just enjoy connecting with people. So yeah, if you ever need anything or have questions, we're always there.
I appreciate you, Josh. There's going to be a lot of good protocols coming out of this, and I'm excited to get that into the community and share around some of these insights. So thank you so much. Appreciate you.
Thank you for your time. Yeah.
That's this week's Protocol 1. If you want to know exactly where you stand across all 6 vectors, take the free assessment at 6vectorassessment.com. It takes 5 minutes. The truth takes less. Don't settle.